Hi, everyone. It's Laura and Brooke here for our MBL Legal Talk Tuesday. And we're here today to talk to our listeners and our viewers about a pretty serious topic, even though I have a smile on my face. I smile at everything. But we're going to talk today about the unauthorized practice of law. And that is the very specific term that's used in the legal community and in the rules. But basically, it means that you're practicing law illegally because you're not a licensed attorney. And that is we come across it pretty often, but it's reared its ugly head more recently a few times. And we just want to make our listeners and our potential clients and our current clients aware of what problems there are and caution people who are doing it or thinking about doing it, what the consequences are if you are kind of holding yourself out as an attorney or an expert on matters that you really don't have any knowledge of. So what is the unauthorized practice of law? And it's kind of what I said. It's the practice of law by a person who's not an attorney or isn't licensed in the appropriate jurisdiction, and jurisdiction meaning that particular state, or maybe it's federal court instead of state court, that kind of thing. And they're not licensed or allowed, they haven't been admitted to practice law in that particular state or federal jurisdiction. And jurisdiction, I just mean like the geographical, like your area. So for example, I'm not licensed to practice in federal court. I haven't ever been sworn into federal court here in Arkansas. So I would be committing the unauthorized practice of law if I were to represent that I can walk into the U.S. bankruptcy court or something like that and help you with something. So that's kind of our topic here today.
Right. And for those of you who don't know, attorneys, when you get licensed, you're licensed in per state. So just because an attorney is licensed in Arkansas doesn't mean that they can practice or get any kind of legal advice in Texas. So that's kind of how our licensing system is set up. And Laura touched on it a minute ago, kind of why we're discussing this today. Just in the last few months, we've kind of seen a rise in individuals who are committing the unauthorized practice of law, and it seems to be quite innocently, but still ignorance is no excuse when you're doing something illegal. So we're discussing it because one, we had actually came across a lady who specifically advertised that she drafted, and this comes about a lot more often that I see in family law matters. So she said that she will draft your divorce decree. And so she can't do that. She wasn't a licensed attorney. And I've also had somebody reach out to me directly and tell me that they were doing this and they're not a lawyer, and you know how they can locate these resources for stuff beyond what they're providing for people. And it doesn't really matter if it is free or if you're paying that person. It's the actual practice of law. So who can practice law? Like Laura mentioned, attorneys obviously can practice in the places that they are licensed to practice. You can also represent yourself. So, you know, you're not going to get in trouble for practicing law if you go and represent yourself in your divorce. You're able to draft those documents. You're able to go to court, represent yourself that way. So you can do that, but you just cannot do those things for someone else. What constitutes the practice of law? Drafting documents, giving any kind of legal advice, representing a person in court, doing something on behalf of someone else. Those things are all things that people can do that would violate the unauthorized practice of law rule that's in place. And so just be mindful in your interactions, because I know a lot of times people will, you know, say, oh, well, I went through a divorce. Let me draft your divorce decree, you know, because it's just like mine. And we'll get into why that's a terrible idea for both sides now.
Yeah. And just to add on to that very briefly, it's when we say draft, we mean write. So it's drafting is our legalese term. But when we say drafting documents, we mean writing them. So you're on your computer, you're saying this person is wanting to get divorced for this reason, and that's what you're giving to the court. That's something that you cannot do if you're not doing it for yourself, or if you're not an attorney who is licensed to practice in that particular state. So another thing that we see, just as an FYI, for people who need powers of attorney, it's something that I've seen a lot in the Hispanic community, that there are people, especially in Southwest Little Rock area and in different parts of the state, and the Northwest part for sure, and other areas, where if they're a notario, notarios are attorneys in Mexico, and maybe other south of the border countries, but a notario, most of the time that I've seen in Arkansas, they are not attorneys. They say that they're drafting legal documents for you, but I've seen a lot of these powers of attorney, and they're not something that would hold up in court. They would get kicked out pretty easily if somebody actually tried to enforce them. So just for our Hispanic listeners, that is something to be very aware of, because I think a lot of people take advantage of the Hispanic community, and by practicing law without knowing how to do it properly. So what are the consequences for someone who practices law illegally? And I'm going to use illegally instead of unauthorized, because unauthorized sounds soft and not as strict, but it is illegal in the state of Arkansas and in most states to practice law without a license to practice law. So in Arkansas, it's actually a crime. It's a Class A misdemeanor offense, or sometimes a Class D felony, depending on the circumstances. So keep that in mind. If you are someone who's holding yourself out to be an attorney, or saying that you can, or doing things that an attorney is the only person who's allowed to do them, keep in mind that is a crime, and you can be charged with a crime, and there are some serious consequences for committing those crimes. And like Brooke said earlier, ignorance of the law is not a defense. You'll see that with pretty much every criminal thing that you can get in trouble for. The fact that you were ignorant or weren't aware that it was the law doesn't mean that you aren't in trouble for it. So,
right. And to clarify real quick, it's not just that you're holding yourself out, and by that I mean telling people or pretending or leaving out that you're not a lawyer. But even if you say, I'm not a lawyer, but you're still doing lawyer things, that's still illegal. Exactly.
So why is this dangerous? Why is this something that you really need to be, scared to do? Every particular case is unique. And by case, I mean your divorce is not like the other person's divorce. And so if you copy and paste in things, if you, say, I'm just going to take exactly what they wrote in their Word document, or this is what maybe it's my attorney, wrote this for me, so I'm going to do this for my friend, and just copy and paste things, that will put you, your family, your business, whether if it's business documents, things like that, that puts you at severe risk, because every case is unique. There's a reason that lawyers have to take this big test. We don't like it either, trust me. But it's all about the facts of a case that are unique, and therefore the law is applied differently based on the facts that are unique to each individual person. So you might be leaving something out of a contract that's going to get you in a lot of trouble. You might be leaving something out of your divorce decree in relation to child support or custody or visitation. There are a lot of these things that using an attorney with experience can help you avoid. But if you're using someone who just says they can help you, or, hey, I can do this for cheaper, or whatever it might be, just know that the consequences for not having someone with experience and with the education and that kind of thing, there can be severe consequences. You might not be able to see your kids. You might be paying more child support than you need to, or you might be getting less child support than you need to. So keep that in mind as well.
Right. And, we do recognize that sometimes people will go to these people because they maybe will say, I'll do it for, like Laura said, a lot less. But you guys need to realize you do have options out there that include actually getting access to attorneys. I mean, that's the whole reason MyVirtual.Lawyer exists, to be able to provide you that access at an affordable cost, whether that's the fee is, you know, closer to what you can do, or you can make payment plans with us. So that's the whole reason we exist, is to kind of fill that space. So don't take that step just because you think that it's, you know, the cheapest way to get it done, because, you know, oftentimes the cheapest way is not going to be the best way. And like Laura said, there's a lot at stake if you're, you know, involved in some kind of a legal matter or dispute. So thank you guys for joining us today. That's all we had. We really wanted to kind of touch on that to make sure that, you know, people were educated about it, not only if they're doing it, but also for you guys to kind of look at some of the, you know, situations and consequences that you may have as, you know, the legal recipient of whatever, you know, documents or assistance that you receive from somebody who's violating this law. So we're here every Tuesday at 11:30 for Legal Talk Tuesday. So thanks for joining us, and hopefully see you next week. Thanks.